we're all here as professionals, but I'd really love for us and the audience to get to understand one another as people. Because if we can't connect to our own human natures, it seems to me that we have little hope of meaningfully connecting with the perspectives and needs of others. So I'd like you to indulge me and to ask each of you in turn to share with us a key memory from your early life. When did you first begin to understand the social impact that design could have? Stanislava, let's start with you.
Thank you very much for this question. Well, I think it starts from the very beginning at home, where I was born and grown up, being that the place, a small but still public place of encounter of many people that shaped my life and keep shaping it in one or another way. And well, probably especially because both of my parents are also architects and are city makers in their own as well as other, but that public space, internal at home, but also external, so multi-scale, I would say immediately, is something that immediately explained that the spaces that we are surrounded by, closed or open, are actually the scene for human interactions, for people to share their experiences and to create the community. So what is the city but the people, as Shakespeare said, started from very home of mine, yeah.
Bjorn Tore, how about you?
Well, my father is an engineer. I'm an engineer. My daughter is an engineer. My eldest daughter is an engineer. And I think we have always been a family looking to buildings, looking inside the buildings. I'm an MEP engineer, and always when I was with my father in a grocery store or something, we were looking up in the ceiling, looking into the ventilation ducts and everything. And maybe that kind of triggered me to be an engineer that could also use the technical part as an environment of the building as well. And we have a lot of examples that are not so pretty, both inside and outside the buildings as well. So I think that was the starting point for me.
So we have a family theme running through here with our first two responses. Leonard, how about you? When did you first start to understand the social impact potential of design?
I think very clearly for me, and that is slightly different, is meeting and working with Richard Rogers, because his whole ethos was so imbued in the whole social value of what architecture could bring, the whole approach to the working ethos, so clearly marked obviously what we are today, the practice, but also my involvement, because I was at that time, I was actually working for Arup, and I was responsible for the steel work on the Pompidou Center. So I had a different interaction, but his whole influence on the way we worked, his generosity and the way he wanted to involve everybody in the process. And as I've talked about in our constitution, giving back to society some of the success you might have in your professional life. So I think for me, that can only be the major marker in my career.
Thank you. And I know, I understand that Lord Rogers had that impact on so many people he interacted with. Now, Bjorn Tore, in the past hour, we've heard from Leonard and Stanislava about their work. So I thought we should balance the scales by learning a bit more about yours. And in particular, can you please tell us more about the Ramboll Foundation? I had to snoop around the website and we'll quote from it here. So I understand that members of the Ramboll Foundation board will work to ensure that the Ramboll Group and its affiliated and associated companies behave in an ethical, responsible, and socially minded manner to earn the respect and trust of customers and business partners and to increase satisfaction amongst employees. What does this relationship look like in practice from the view of a board member? And how does it positively shape the social focus of Ramboll's work?
Yeah, it's a long phrase, and there's a lot of responsibility being the main owner because we, the foundation, represent 95% of the ownership of Ramboll, and from our founding fathers, Børge Ramboll and Hannemann, we are taking care of the company on behalf of all the employees. So we're not digging into the day-to-day business, but trying to be an active and also a proactive owner, looking after the investments, for instance, and the ethical part, as you described. And we also donate a lot of money during 1 year, approximately 20 million Danish kroner for different initiatives, both from outside Ramboll, but also from employees that has volunteer work, for instance, around the world. But we have meetings in the foundation board, and also the chairman for both the Ramboll Group and the chairman from the foundation as well, looking into the business, the ethical part, the social part, discussing how to make the company going forward and taking the responsibility that we have from our heritage, from our founding fathers as well.
Thank you. And Leonard, you've already shared with us about how the late Lord Rogers wished to ensure that RSHP had a clear, socially governed framework, and how ownership was passed to a charitable trust to achieve this. Based on your experience, I think we've got a pretty diverse audience with us today. What advice would you offer to other built environment professionals or clients who are tuning in today, whose companies may currently have more traditional business models, but who want to significantly improve the social contributions that their work makes to the world?
Well, that is a very challenging question you're asking there, and puts a sort of a perspective on it that others perhaps have more experience with. But I think it's in the end, it's all back to people and how you engage people in your business. And we have engineers who've created their own, much as Ramboll, their own trusts to ensure that there's always an oversight on what you're doing. I think as far as we're concerned, given the ethos that's behind the practice and the fact that everybody has the opportunity of donating to charity, there is almost a day-to-day awareness of the fact that there are people out there that need help. And if you have the thinking process that then goes into our architecture, or our thinking around projects that are given to us, are always related to people and how we engage with people and how we can contribute. The project in some form or other can contribute to the environment in which it's built. But I can't say I can be the great guru of telling people how to create their ESD in their own companies. I think the big engineering companies are, and even a lot of the management companies are selling their wares on that front very well these days. So I have to leave it to them to advise others. I think we we have to concentrate on the very challenging environment we are in today and how we continue to help those around us.
Thanks. I mean, in my own work, I've certainly noticed an uptick in organizations that are restructuring as community benefit companies or employee-owned trusts or even B Corps. I wondered if, you know, for any of the three of you, you see this as a promising trend, or is it just something that Leonard referred to? Is this just something that consultants are selling?
I think there's one important point one mustn't forget as one sort of tries to broaden one's responsibilities, is you can only help if you're a successful business. So you have to combine whatever benefits you want to apply to the company, to outside the company, by being a successful business. And I think those are the places where people want to work, and those are the places, therefore, have money to spend on helping others. It's no good being very sort of environmentally friendly and all stuff, but if your business fails, it's not going to help you or anybody else.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So let's move actually from the private sector focus across to Stanislava, but staying with this idea of the structure, of how the structure of the organizations that we work within shapes the work that we do. So Stanislava, you trained as an architect, but now you work as an academic within the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Imperial College. Can you share with us, how does the context of a university or perhaps the EU, government-funded projects you're a part of shape the socially orientated nature of the work that you do?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. It's true that from working many years in schools of in schools of architecture, but also in practice as an architect, after I focused on academic work at civil and engineering department at Imperial College, just because of the importance from my perspective to understand scientifically the complex themes that we are working on. And I truly believe that scientific understanding of some subject that our projects are tackling is extremely important. And there is a lot of connection actually between practical and scientific work, more than sometimes we think. And the social aspect of this project that we are working on, funded by European Union, as you correctly mentioned, is very important, and is just inputting the needs or the concerns of people that are living in the public or surrounding the public spaces where we are dealing. Are the focus of our scientific approach. So we build the knowledge of the context that we are dealing with through the dialogue that we are building with the citizens and the users of the spaces where we do our projects. So we see the projects as an intervention, as a connection between the context and the future prospects. And in this perspective, it is really important that the multidisciplinary approach that in academic institution as Imperial College, where I'm now based, really can create this basis for a dialogue between different departments in our university, but also with other universities and also with technology providers, also with businesses, with governments. So the platform for knowledge exchange and platform where we can share the experiences and the perspectives is something that the academic environment does open in a quite effective manner for the projects the multi-scale projects that we are working on.
Thank you. So perhaps we could see a spectrum for the, the work that you're doing in the nonprofit sector of context of a university, working through together with the profit motive driven private sector companies. Now you raised the point of platforms for dialogue, and I understand that it's Ramboll's ambition for this forum to become an annual event. And so since we have the luxury of being the first panel, the first day of the inaugural edition, I thought, why not? Let's think ahead to next year if we were going to curate it. Are there any specific topics or challenges in this, broad and diverse space of design and society that you'd hope to see addressed in more detail? Leonard, let's start with you.
Well, I've sort of been trying to preach to my children, and at my age, I've got quite grandchildren at a certain age, that they think very carefully about climate change, because they have such concentration of trying to get through their studies and trying to succeed in their lives, that I think they're losing sight of what is the dramatic changes that are going to occur. It's not going to be my problem. I'll be long gone, but it's going to be their problem. So I think one of the themes that could go through all these is how we think we can address climate change, because much as we think we might want to reduce it to 1.5 degrees, I unfortunately think there's scant hope that we'll achieve that. And should we not be looking as professionals, looking closer at what happens at 3 degrees and what can we do, start thinking about today, because the politicians aren't going to do that, because that's not going to get them votes. I think it must be back to the professionals to start thinking and advising what can be done and should be done in the future. Just to, we've had a question posed to us about what are we going to do about the number of people who are going to be moved in the UK. If you get 50 centimeters or 75 centimeters of higher water levels, it means several 100,000 people moving from the coast to other places in the country. And there's a whole urban structure that has to be recreated. Where are they going to live? How are you going to recreate? So I do think that as a theme would be of extreme value for everybody that comes after us.
Absolutely. If we think about the global, the global audience for this event too, obviously in neighboring countries in Asia, where I'm based, governments like Bangladesh are already having to engage very clearly, or, different Pacific Island nations are already having to engage with those. So I think, designers who can go and research those existing conditions, as well as projecting forward to the countries where it's still to come. Thanks for sharing that. Bjorn Tor or Stanislava, do you have any topics that you'd like to put in the ring for future consideration?
Yes, well, I agree with what Leonard said. Definitely, there is a lot of research, knowing what are the perspectives, but also imagining and simulating the different scenarios that might happen. So the research is something that is really important. And I believe that for following editions, of course, it's important to know more from the specialists that we have today on the panel, but also maybe from, again, other disciplines that are involved in architecture and urban environment, because it is exactly on the edge on disciplines where we can maybe find the solutions that otherwise couldn't have come to our mind. So yes, I believe that widening and the opinions, and yes, somehow establishing this platform for a wider dialogue is something that could really be even more interesting to see.
Thank you. So I'm hearing an emphasis on interdisciplinary exchange, maybe expanding the diversity of participants. And I'm also hearing a desire for thinking about using professional design tools to think about how we plan across the longer term. Now, Bjorn Tore, I wanted in closing to turn to you to see, do any of these topics resonate with the work that you're doing either in buildings or in your role on the board of the Ramboll Foundation? And are you able to share with us any kind of forthcoming initiatives that the foundation might be planning that could relate to some of these topics?
Yeah, first of all, I want to add some comments also around the challenges that we have due to the climate part. I think we have to challenge ourselves every day, the clients, the contractors, challenge the everyday solutions that we produce in buildings, in roads, in all our work every day. So I think that will be the main topic for us all going forward. But yes, I have some news to tell you about. Actually, the Ramboll Group and the foundation have a joint program named Society Impact Program. This is kind of a great opportunity to establish a more proactive, coherent, and also impactful approach to increase the society impact through volunteering and donations. And donations is, as I said earlier in this session, is donation we do every year. And the foundation board decided to support this program 2 weeks ago in a meeting. This initiative is kind of spot on our legacy from our founding fathers, being a purpose-driven company. And you can say it's spot on in the Ramboll DNA to be a society consultant as well. The aim of this program, Society Impact Program, would be to support the overall transition to a more sustainable global society, building on the legacy. And the program will also support underprivileged groups and communities through two main tracks. The first one is the minor groups to enter our industry, individuals or through the families, to improve access to education. And the second track is within supporting societies that are kind of struggling to make the transition to more sustainability society, which don't have the capacity themselves in building lasting capacity and implementing sustainable solutions as well, and help them towards a more greener future, so to speak. I think this initiative will bring minor groups into our industry and our markets and local communities as well. It will also build capacity within both sustainability and the science, technology, engineering, mathematics, education part in the underprivileged communities as well. And the last one is that this could be an implementation of sustainable solutions and infrastructure as well in those societies. So this will be a partnership from Ramboll Group, the Ramboll Foundation, and NGOs, non-profit organizations, that we can have as partners to have a partnering program and an engagement program for volunteers within Ramboll as well. So I think this is a great opportunity to really step up for this.
Thanks for giving us that preview, and I'm sure in particular the Ramboll colleagues who are in the audience will be really excited to think about how they can engage with that. Finally, this is a virtual event, so people who would like to connect with you but can't grab you in the coffee break, as you might if we were meeting face to face, maybe next year. If our audience members would like to learn more about your work or connect with each of you, what's the best way for them to do that? Stanislava?
Well, I thank you for this opportunity, Sarah, to share the context. So at the website of Imperial College London, there is an information about the projects we are working on that I presented. And also there are contacts like email and telephone. So it's all there. And of course, LinkedIn is the way to reach out at any moment. So yes, please, I would be happy to share more about our project.
Excellent, thank you. Leonard, obviously RSHP is, very high profile firm internationally, but what's the way that you like people to connect with you if they have a specific question that they want to direct to you following your presentation?
LinkedIn is always an easy one that sort of pops up. And there's email, and they can always, anybody can go through the inquiries at RSHP, and they'll be guided in the right direction.
Wonderful.
So I don't think that's a problem.
Thank you. Bjorn Tore?
Yeah, I've kind of two hats on my head today. I'm from the foundation board, and we have the websites for the foundation. LinkedIn is also a great opportunity to engage with me, and email, and you can also find me on the web page from the Ramboll web page, and I'm within the buildings in Norway, so just reach out.
Thank you. So it might seem silly for me to ask you for these contact details. Obviously, anyone can Google you or follow the links from the site. But because we started out the conversation with a very clear sense of the influence that your work and way of thinking has been shaped by other influential people that you had contact with in early life for your early career, I think we need to try our best for events like this to increase the possibility of human connection and human contact. Beyond the grid of square videos for us. So a really warm thank you from me and the audience to Stanislava, Leonard, and Bjorn Tore for your participation. And I will now hand back to Hussein.
Thank you for that engaging conversation. This completes our session A on design and society. In the past 2 hours, Sarah beautifully reminded us of the power of our agency, of what we need to unlearn, what we need to relearn, and who is included in the we.